Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Health Wealth. We have a guest on with us this week, Daniel Wilding, who we're going to speak to a bit about what he does and how they help people through the different issues they have. So, first of all, Daniel, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Ryan, and thanks very much for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm sure we're going to have an interesting conversation. So, I think first of all, if you just give us a little bit of a background on what it is you do, and then we can kind of chat a bit more about how you got into it.
Sure. So I'm an independent social worker in England who is currently working with the NHS as well as starting up my own social enterprise called Daniel Wilding CIC. We offer a number of services, emotional change therapy and virtual reality therapy, helping people with challenges around recovering from severe and enduring mental illness. And we also offer a suite of information products and services, ranging from a podcast to awareness raising short films that are co-created and co-produced with our clients.
Wow, that sounds super interesting. Some of the stuff you mentioned there that you do now sound really interesting to me, which we'll get into a bit later. But I think if we go back first and rewind a bit, and just what kind of drew you into the industry you're in? Did you always want to go into it, or did it just sort of happen?
Originally, when I left school, I had a passion for storytelling, and particularly film and media. So that's where the germ of my interest in film and media and storytelling kind of happened. And as for the social work side of things, it kind of happened because I've come from a family of people who like to help people. My dad's uncle, he was a social worker. His wife, my auntie, was a social worker. And in the street where I used to live as a kid, right, I was friends with a guy whose dad was also a social worker. He and I used to go to a folk club playing the guitar, and we just got chatting about what he did. So with all of those influences in my life, I kind of got to a place when I turned about 30, so 10 years or so ago now, where I thought, do you know what, this is what I want to do. So yeah, I embarked on that journey. Graduated in 2016 with the thought of setting up my own social enterprise, and that's kind of brought me to where we are today.
Okay, so kind of you were surrounded by it almost growing up, so it was like a natural progression for you into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And when you first did, you start where you are now with the NHS? Did you start straight there, or have you moved around to different roles?
I've moved around to different roles. I mean, I started out with the very clear goal of wanting to specialise in mental health, and my first job post qualifying was with a social enterprise, actually. So that was really useful because I learned about the business model, how to operate within a social enterprise, how to do things well, and also how to do things not so well. So, and then moved around in lots of different teams, getting lots of different experiences there, and then made the choice probably about a year ago, year and a half ago, to move into the NHS proper. Again, just to build experiences, broaden my network, learn new things, continually develop and grow, because that's really important to me. One of my highest values is growth. So that's how I did it.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I'm also really keen on you should be constantly growing and constantly improving as well. I also think that's definitely something people should be doing, not stagnating. And like you say, the way you've moved around and learned lessons from different places is perfect way to set you up for what you're doing. And obviously, like you said, sometimes the biggest lessons you learn are what not to do from being with other people around their businesses, and you manage to learn the hard way without actually doing it the hard way. Let them do the hard way for you. So moving on to yours, because a couple of things you said that you do really sound really interesting. So can you just go into with your new social enterprise you're doing, just explain in a bit more depth what some of those things are that you do with people?
So the first thing is emotional change therapy, and emotional change therapy can be best described as a series of techniques that help people change their mindset and move from an unwanted state to a desired state. And it incorporates lots of different modalities, ranging from heart coherence to neurolinguistic programming and eye movement desensitization, reprocessing. So all of those are kind of blended in what we call ECT, or emotional change therapy. And interestingly, myself and the founder of the approach, Imran Ahmed, are collaborating in July on delivering an online presentation and a poster at the National Social Workers Conference.
Oh, nice. Nice. So is that, are you mainly working with people who kind of have mental health issues, or is it just people who kind of looking for, is it kind of like going to psychiatrist, or it's quite kind of different to that level?
It's kind of a step down, if you will, from when people are perhaps needing to go see a psychiatrist. I mean, some may have seen a psychiatrist already, but the people that we're kind of wanting to work with are people who are perhaps experiencing anxiety, depression, eating difficulties, stress, relationship breakdowns, fear of public speaking, agoraphobia, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. No, that's interesting. What kind of results do you find with it? Do people respond pretty quickly and pretty well? Does it take quite a while, or is it just everyone's different?
From what I've seen so far, people have significant breakthroughs. It's a modality that's growing in popularity, and the other thing that we offer is the virtual reality therapy, which can kind of add work as an adjunct, really, to the face-to-face stuff. If people are perhaps feeling too uncomfortable to come in and have a one-to-one or a group session with me, then we can work one-to-one in a virtual basis, and that can either be coming in and putting on the headset, or it can be through the computer, much like you and I are talking now, Ryan. So there's options and choices for people. The research says that the best results usually come from combining the two methods. But as I say, it's an individual preference, and we'll design whatever approach is best for the people that would like to experience it.
Yeah. So with the virtual reality, would that be kind of to almost give them the impression of they are in the room with you without them being in the room. As it obviously, I understand on the computer, like a Zoom like this, but the virtual reality will be actually with the thing on, and they'll feel like they're actually there. Is that kind of the aim of that?
Precisely. Yeah. I mean, imagine you're someone who has difficulties with going to a bar because you're someone who struggles with social interactions, being out and about in quite stimulating, busy environments. Putting on the headset, where you're either just in the room with me in a nice, calm, contained environment, or in the comfort of your own home, with the computer screen, with the software in front of you. The virtual reality experience will enable you to safely experience a busy bar type environment from the comfort of your own home, or the comfort and safety of a therapy office.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. It's great using the new technology to really advance treatments and different things, and seeing how it comes on. It's really interesting. We kind of concentrate with what we do. We concentrate more on diet, but we're also a bit on mindset. And I'm really interested in all things about the human brain, because I don't think we have still a grasp on everything the human brain can do. I think it's amazing, and you can trick it into doing different things as well. And it's really, really interesting subject, which I'm still looking to delve a lot deeper into. Have you had anything like something where someone's come in and like the transformation has been, what I mean, they've gone from one extreme to the other just through what you're doing? Is there any kind of huge changes that people get?
One example I can think of is a gentleman who I met back in January of this year. He came to us with significant substance misuse issues, and we worked with him through his stuff on the day, over the course of 5 hours or so, and the following day we heard back from him, and he said that he felt like his depression, his anxiety was beginning to lift, and he'd felt really, really cared for and embraced by the group experience and the intervention that he had. And when we heard that was a really really powerful, validating thing, right? So that's just one example of how it can work for people. And yeah, to the best of my knowledge, this man's taking steps forward on his journey and doing well.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing, the difference it can make. Do you find, because I find in all walks of life, with trying to help people, you can't help someone that isn't ready to be helped. So the people that come to you, are they coming to you because they want help, or are they being sort of like recommended, are they sent to you through the NHS? And maybe do you get pushback from people who aren't in that position where they're ready to change?
Part of my process is to assess people's motivation for change. Not only in my daily practice, but in my independent practice. So people will come through recommendations. People will come organically through our advertising efforts, and people will come through referral. So all three avenues are how people can come to us, right?
Yeah, that's cool. I think if they're coming to you through most of them, they're almost seeking you out. So I guess that puts them in a position where they are ready to be helped, which makes it easier. Yeah. That is That is really interesting. One thing I was going to ask you, which you kind of even mentioned a tiny bit about eating before. Obviously, we concentrate a lot on diet. With obviously, there's a lot of links between diet and gut health and mental health. Do you advise anything to people on terms of their diet, or do you just kind of concentrate on the emotional side that you work with?
I'd say we mainly concentrate on the emotional side of things. We can give basic advice, but we're very aware of our limits, and there's frankly there's more skillful and more knowledgeable people out there to help with that side of someone's well-being. We could refer people on, suggest that people do their own research, but with regards to the mind body gut axis, I completely agree with you. It's really key to be mindful about what we put into our bodies, and to learn and to know and to discover what foods benefit both our physical and our mental health, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all physical, mental health is all linked. There's nothing you can do about it. I think if you're looking to improve one, you're more than likely going to improve the other. And if you're not taking care of one, you're not really going to take care of the other. If you let your physical health go, it's more than likely your mental health's going to suffer too. Really, do you have, where you work within the NHS, do you kind of have constraints on what you can do? Are you a bit more free in your independent practice to implement different methods you can do, or with the NHS are they quite happy for you to do what works for the patient?
Working within the NHS, my role is very clear. I deliver social care assessments and do social care assessments with people who are detained under the Mental Health Act due to experiencing a crisis in their psychotic illness. And when they come to me, they're at the point of recovery and rehabilitation, Ryan. So they're looking to be discharged from hospital, and they come and meet with me, and we work together to make sure that people have all the services and supports that they need to support them to stay safe and well and at home. So within that, there's certain evidence-based methodologies and approaches that I need to be using. You asked whether I had more freedom in my private practice to do the things that we've been talking about, and I say at the moment there's more freedom within an independent practice for me to do the things that I've mentioned, work in the ways that I do with people.
Yeah. And what obviously mental health is a big thing at the moment. It's spoke about quite a lot. Do you find that there is maybe one certain area which seems to bring more people, there seems to be more people who end up needing help from you and in that situation from one sort of certain area of mental health, or is it just sort of across the board?
I work with people who have complex needs. So the problem is not the problem. When people come to me, they find that the problem was not the problem was something else. And the something else is what we work on.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. I think that's going to be true in a lot of cases. How do you, like, if someone first comes to you, how do you go about kind of getting to the root of it and diagnosing what their actual kind of issue and problem is stemming from? What's your first steps you'd take with them?
Just to pick you up on a bit of language, I wouldn't diagnose.
Okay.
as a social worker, I leave that to the doctors. However, I'd look at people's challenges, their difficulties, their problems, their presenting problems, and essentially I work with people to agree and work towards solutions. So I know you take a holistic view of health and wealth, much the same. Similarly, I take that view of people's social circumstances. So I'll look at many of the things that you look at. Essentially, someone's functioning from the moment that someone wakes up to the moment they go to sleep, and how a person's past can influence their present and influence their future. Any adverse experiences they might have experienced in their lives, lived experience of illness, abuse, and anything like that. But importantly, I would also look at a person's risks and crucially their strengths. Now, people won't necessarily know what their strengths are when they come to me, but when they come to us, it's about drawing those out and helping people to realize that actually you have resources. They might be buried, they might be latent, but they're there, and we can kind of work together to unlock them.
So that's kind of, we talk about with mindset and doing things like even something that seems so basic as positive affirmations, and things like that. Is that kind of, you're trying to get them to look at the positives they have and the strengths they have rather than all the negative stuff around them? Is that kind of what you're doing there, kind of a similar thing?
A kind of positive psychology, yeah. I'd say we temper that with realism and personal responsibility. That kind of comes back to what we were saying earlier about a person's desire and motivation to change, and mentoring and coaching people as I do. One of the first things I will say is that we want to work together so that you get to the point where you become your own mentor, your own coach. I'm a guest in your life. I won't be around forever. In fact, the most pleasure that I get from my work is the day when someone comes to me and says, "Do you know what, Dan? I think we're done. I'm okay now." Off the person goes, because then I think, right, good, that's work well done.
Yeah, that's a job done. That's got to be fulfilling. Yeah. Seeing those success stories, that's something that we're looking to get plenty of with what we're doing as well. Yeah, I think seeing that change and being a part of that change, seeing from the beginning to the end as well. Because in my day-to-day job, I'm a carpenter, and one of the things I do enjoy about it is that you see the project start to finish. Mm-hmm. And it's some jobs where people are just working behind a computer or something, they never see kind of the fruits of their labor, and it's quite nice to see it. And obviously to see it in a person's life where you've had such a positive effect on them too, that's going to be a very fulfilling thing to have. And I like that you brought up one of my favorite words or phrases there, of personal responsibility, which I really love, because I think it's so important, and I think it's missing so much in today's society. So I would imagine that perhaps with the clients you getting them to have some sort of personal responsibility and kind of accept that is maybe quite a big moment in trying to help them, because I guess it's not necessarily, I spoke to someone about this recently on the podcast, I can't remember who it was, and they said about the personal responsibility is not blaming yourself for everything, it's accepting that you're the one with the power to change it. And so I guess that them reaching that point would be quite a big step forward when you're working with them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about empowerment, and oftentimes people come to me and they're in a state of disempowerment. Right, things have happened. They've had things done to them. People have done things for them, etc. So they come to me, and they're often in a state of powerlessness, really, and feeling out of control, and lacking purpose and direction. And it's about assisting people to find their way and their path, and what lights them up, what lights you up, and what creating people's life, creating the life that people want to live.
Yeah, like you say, that is empowering, giving people that purpose. Because I agree, I think when a lot of people are struggling mentally, I think when you feel like you have no purpose in your life, I think it'd be very easy to struggle, because I think everyone needs some kind of purpose, to feel like they have a purpose, at least to feel like there's a need for them, and they have a role, and something to fulfill. So I'd imagine that's a super important part of it. I had recently on the podcast, I had a guy called Michael Mojo. He's an Australian guy. He's a mindset coach. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's really good. And his whole thing is based around the value system, which I noticed you used that word a couple of times, about helping people to find their values and kind of rank their values and find fulfillment from that. So do you kind of work off a similar system with that?
Yeah, we can work on values elicitation. It's often quite a long process. When I was doing my training, for me, it was a 3-hour process. To really go quite deep into those values, and the how and the why, and it's something that I'd encourage people to do if people are curious with me, in the first instance, because it kind of sets a foundation, Ryan, for the work that then comes afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. It's something I think people should look into, because even if you feel like you're doing okay, I think discovering what your values are and kind of aligning your life up with them is a really powerful tool to use, and can really push you on to the next level. Because a lot of people, even though they might think they're all right at the moment, are just kind of existing and surviving without any real, not I won't say motivation, I don't like to use that word motivation, but without any real kind of purpose, and they're just day to day, they think they're doing okay. But if they can find their values and align with them, that is going to lead you to a fulfilled and more happy life, and a stronger mindset, I would think.
Yeah, I'd agree. And kind of following on from that thought, we will find that as we move through life, sometimes our values change, but those core non-negotiable values, and they'll only perhaps be 2, 3. They won't change too much. They'll, no matter where we get to in life, how old we get, what happens, those core values that we really hold dear in our heart, those foundational beliefs, will hopefully, if they're the right ones for us, they'll stay true and steadfast and see us through.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's, as I said before, I encourage anyone who hasn't looked into that to definitely look into that, and do some work on it themselves, and see if they can align their life with their values. I think you mentioned earlier, I don't know if it was on the podcast or when we were speaking just beforehand, about a film you produced.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, of course. It's a film called 16. In fact, as of yesterday, it's available for streaming on Exposure Plus TV and YouTube. I'd encourage any of your listeners who are interested in viewing it to go to Exposure Plus TV, search 16, 16, and you'll see it there. To kind of talk to the story a bit more, it's a story that kind of answers this question: what turns a sweet 16 schoolboy into a callous criminal? The film, we made it probably about 11 years ago now. We made it with a group of young people while I was a youth worker working for a local authority at the time. The project was funded by the council, and we made it alongside young people who were interested in learning more about the whole production process of a short film. When produced alongside professional actors and cast and crew, the film, I say with humility, was premiered at Pinewood Studios, the spiritual home of James Bond.
Nice.
And it had a semi-successful festival run to Cannes Short Film Corner, and also the Brief Encounters Short Film Festival in Bristol. And as I say, it's now available for anyone who might like to spare 10 minutes of their life to enjoy the story on Exposure Plus TV.
Very nice. I'll definitely check that out. And is the story in any way related to the kind of things you do, or was it just a project that was separate at the time?
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be relevant to what I do now at the time. But reflecting on it now, you can certainly see connections because it does raise awareness of particular social issues regarding and mental health issues. It will raise awareness of bullying, of knife crime, of self-harm, of domestic abuse, and at perhaps the most impactful, murder. So it kind of gives you a flavour of the content of the film. So if you're of a sensitive disposition, do kind of approach it with caution. If you do feel you might be triggered by it, approach it with that health warning. If you feel okay with it, then by all means jump in and just enjoy it. It's kind of an example of the films that we want to continually create and co-create and co-produce with people, because it was kind of the beginning of that genre of filmmaking for me, because a few years ago, I say with humility, I had the opportunity to collaborate with the mental health charity Mind on another short film project that again raised awareness of mental health issues. This film was called Mental Health and Physical Health Go Hand in Hand, and I actually participated in that film and told a bit of my own story of recovery from mental illness, and how I moved through that and grew through that, alongside a couple of other people. The film is available on the Minds YouTube channel. I believe it's doing okay. It's definitely quite a powerful film to watch. It was certainly a powerful experience for me to participate in, and Again, if any of your listeners are interested, you can go and have a look see on the Minds YouTube channel for that.
Yeah, I would recommend people to go and have a look at that. I'm going to have a watch myself. I think, like I say, it's always good to continually expand your knowledge and educate yourself on all areas, because even when you think you know a lot about subject, there's always more to learn. And even if it's a subject that you may not originally have any interest in, there's no harm in educating yourself further. So I think it's always a good thing to do. And I noticed you mentioned there about, on one of the films you shared, about your own story through mental health. So I'd be interested, if you're okay to share it, I'd be interested to know a bit more on that, on what happened in your situation and how you overcame it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I'll speak to that. So sadly, I was bullied when I was a teenager for being different. Didn't know what that difference was at the time. I later found out as an adult it was undiagnosed dyspraxia, and the impact of that was that sadly my mood became so low that I began to suffer with clinical anxiety and depression, and I became school phobic at that time. And at my worst, I was actively suicidal. I did incomplete suicide by taking an overdose of prescribed medication. And yeah, how I moved through that was through reaching out for help. I've had a long journey of counseling and cognitive behavior therapy, and yeah, medication played a part for a short period of time. But what was most helpful, Ryan, was the talking, and also becoming more educated and mindful and knowledgeable around what health looks like, and for me personally, and the things that I need to do to keep my body and my mind well. So in that, it kind of gave me choices and opportunities to look at my lifestyle and really decide what I needed to do to keep myself well and live in to my optimum health, which kind of brings me to where I am today, where I'm consistently at the gym. I abstain from alcohol and illicit substances. I eat a high protein diet, limit my caffeine, get outside in the outdoors as often as I can. I like to do my 12,000 steps a day, good bit of walking. And those, I mean, they sound like basic everyday things, but they're really non-negotiable for me because of the lived experience that I had. And I feel quite privileged to have this dual qualification now, if you will, of someone with lived experience of mental health difficulty, and also to have the privilege and the honor of working as a mental health social worker.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful thing as well in your situation, that you've actually been there. You've been, in the bad places where they've been. You're speaking from experience, and I think that's really powerful for connecting with people who need help. When you've been there and done it, it kind of gives them that hope and that proof that it can be done. I think that's an amazing thing to have, and I think educating yourself on health and wellness, whether it's mental, physical, anything. Such an important thing, and I encourage everyone to do it. That's what our whole aim and our whole platform is around, is just educating people, because so many people are uneducated on it, which some of it is down to people being ignorant, and some of it is down to a lot of information out there is completely wrong. Some of it is not people's fault. They're told to be healthy this way and they think that's right, and it's not. But constantly learning and educating is really important, and it's also a personal journey, like you've found, and you've got your things that are non-negotiable for you, and you do them for your health, and they may not work for someone else, but they work for you, and that's what's important. It doesn't matter what works for someone else. And like you said about, they seem basic and whatever, but I think for real true health, it is quite basic. It's quite simple. You don't need to complicate it. You need to keep it simple and have those set things. You have your targets you hit each day with what you're going to eat. You're going to get your steps in. You're going to get out and get fresh air. And that's the perfect way to approach it, I think. Keep it really simple, straightforward, and keep on top of your physical and mental health. And that's going to keep you in the best condition. That's definitely the way forward. And I just wanted to circle back to, because for a lot of people who may be in a similar situation that you were in the bad times, I think one of the hardest things, not that I've been there myself from personal experience, but I think from what I know of other people, one of the hardest things is to actually call for help, to actually ask for that help. So was there a certain thing that happened that caused you to actually go and reach out for help, or did you just like this? This is too much. I need to get help. And what helped you to overcome that?
That's a good question. An interesting question. I think for me, it was a combination of the level of personal distress that I felt at the time was so intolerable that it was a case of either the final solution, or I do the hard work to become well again. And in addition, it was beginning to see the pain that I was expressing being absorbed by the friends and family and people who cared about me, seeing the impact of my distress and the way that I was coping or not coping with it, affecting their lives. So those two things, those two factors were what motivated me to change. Appreciate it will be different for everyone else, because everyone's experiences are different and unique. But I would say that it's okay, especially as men, to say I need help. Women as well, everyone. It's okay to say, look, I'm struggling, I need help. Whether you reach out to mental health professionals, Samaritans, your GP, friends, family, whoever, just find it within yourself to have that courageous conversation, and use those 3 or 4 words. I need help.
Yeah, I agree. It's super important. If you're in a situation like that and you're feeling like that, there's no shame in asking for help. You absolutely should ask for help. And also, people will be really willing to help you. I don't know, again, I haven't been there myself, but I imagine that people might think that, they might run thoughts through their head that people wouldn't want to help them, and people will turn them away and whatever. And maybe they use that as a reason not to ask. But, people will be more than willing to help you, especially the people around you who love and care for you. They're going to be more than willing to help you if you reach out. And it's really interesting the way you kind of described that to me. It kind of seemed like your second reasoning of seeing the pain it was causing the people around you. That almost seems to me like at that point you kind of took on some of that personal responsibility and kind of realized I'm actually affecting people around me. I need to change this. So that's got, I haven't ever heard anyone kind of describe it in that way from their situation. Obviously everyone's different. They might not have had that moment, but that's really interesting to me, that you kind of, even at that low moment, you kind of took on that personal responsibility and were able to move on from there.
Mm, mm, mm. I kind of find myself going into kind of an esoteric place now, where there's energy, there's energy that we share, and when in psychology and psychiatry, there's this idea, Ryan, of transference and countertransference. So essentially, what that means is that if I am feeling happy about something, then you'll see me looking happy. I'll be smiling, and my body language will be open and relaxed. And through transference and countertransference, we're more likely to feel happy if we're interacting with someone who is showing that and expressing that. Whereas conversely, if we're with someone who is in perhaps a very negative state, then unless we have the knowledge, the skills, the emotional intelligence to kind of hold that and be with that, then sometimes we find that we absorb some of that person's pain and kind of take it on as our own. That's the idea of countertransference and transference. Yeah, there was that part of me that was just aware that I was having such a negative impact on friends, family, and loved ones, because that was how I was feeling, and I was stuck in this state. So when I made the choice, the decision, with a lot of help from various professionals, which I'm incredibly grateful for. Slowly, all of that began to change, and there was a ripple effect, Ryan. Yeah, the positivity and the recovery kind of spread.
Yeah, and I love that, from the fact that with your career now, is you've basically turned that negative into a positive, and you're able to use that to then help other people, which I love. That's a great story to have it like that. I think anything in your life, I think you can turn to a positive, if you get through it. And sometimes the worst situations you have in your life are actually, when you look back, actually maybe the best thing for you, in that they, it's a turning point, and you can use it to really push you on to another level. So I think that's almost like obviously it wouldn't seem it at the time, but almost like a superpower that you can use and really be positive from. So that's awesome that you have managed to do that.
Thanks, man.
That's no problem. And also what you spoke about there about the transference is kind of, we talk about being careful who you surround yourself with. Obviously there's the saying that you are the sum of the 5 people around you, and that you need to be careful. You want to be surrounded by people that are going to build you up and be positive and help you, and not let negative people be around you and bring you down. Because like you say, it's true, that transference of energy is so real. You can feel it. You're around people who are negative and pulling you down, you'll feel completely different to being around positive. Everyone loves being around positive people because it makes you feel good, because it's just a natural thing. So yeah, that's a really, really important thing as well, that I think people need to be aware of, and it's something that we kind of try and preach as well with what we talk to people about. I think curating your reality is what everyone needs to do, in terms of how you want your life to be, the people you want around it, and even what you want to achieve. In your mind, you want to almost believe that you're already there where you want to be, and then just wait for reality to catch up, put the work in to get you to where you want to be. So we'll just touch back on your business, are you fully going independent soon, or are you carrying on mixing the both? Are you fully launching that on its own?
We're blending at the moment.
Yeah.
With the view to going full out with the business as soon as possible. But yeah, kind of in the space of an entrepreneur.
Yeah. That's good. And whereabouts are you based, for if there are people in your area who need help with things like that?
So we're based in Exeter, in
Okay.
Devon, in the UK, southwest of England. So by all means, you can reach out with me through my socials, or we have a website, danielwildingcic.co.uk. By all means, if you would like, you can reach out to us and connect with us through there.
That's awesome. We'll share all your links in the bio podcast and stuff like that to your website, and we'll link to the film and things like that people should watch as well. And definitely, I encourage people to check it out and have a look into it. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, especially sharing the story of your own struggles with mental health, because I love to hear people's stories, whether it's mental health, physical health. I love to hear the stories of actual people. There's a place for research and studies and stuff like that, but real people overcoming real things and what actually works for them, I love to hear. And I think it's really good for the listeners to hear as well, because for people in a situation where they're similar, it gives them some hope. They might think they've got nowhere to go, but they hear, well, you were in that situation and here you are, and it gives people hope, which I think is a super powerful thing. So I definitely want to thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure, Ryan.
Okay, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. We will be back again next week for another podcast where we'll speak to everyone then. We're going to share all of those links in the podcast notes if anyone wants to check it out. We'll see you all next week, and let's get optimal together. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast, or you'd like to appear on it, then please contact us at hwpoduk@gmail.com, on our website, which is healthwealthuk.com, or on any of our social medias, which are at hwpoduk. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share it with all your friends and family, and we will see you next week.